Welcome to another episode of Lifting the Lid on Technology. I'm Barry White, VCIO at Softsource vBridge. To dig deeper into any of the topics we talk about today, check out svbgroup.co.nz/insights or connect with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear from you. Today I'm joined by Pablo Garcia-Curtis, Softsource CEO, and Mark Mayo, CEO of the laptop company. Today we're celebrating 1 year since the acquisition that brought two amazing companies together. Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time out today. It's been a year since you last joined us on the podcast, Pablo, and can you perhaps take us back to 2020 or the early stages of 2025 and talk us through the whole lead up to the acquisition of the laptop company and how that all came about?
It's good to be back, Barry. Thank you so much. And it's exciting to be in touch with everybody out here. So look, from perspective, if I go back, there's some clear milestones in the last 5 years where we had a clear strategy of where we wanted to take the business, where we thought the industry was moving towards. But more importantly, we were very in touch with our customers and understand what they needed. There was an opportunity to deliver true value services up and down the country. And to be able to do that, we wanted to bring global solutions and technologies available around the world, but actually make it local. So we wanted to make sure we had people that understood those businesses, people that could actually look at each other's eyes and understand what was the issues they were having, how could we help them drive their business forward. And so the strategy was to continue to acquire in strategic locations and then grow that solution base through our Centre of Excellence. So suddenly we have exploded to have 7 offices up and down the country, a very clever professional team of over 200 staff, and we're excited on how we're helping our customers today.
Yeah. Oh no, it's been one hell of a year, and as a team member that's been with the company for 10 years, it's been a real blur, but really exciting. I think everybody's really looking forward to 2026. Max, turning to you, and you've been part of the laptop company for a long time, over 25 years now, and in this industry, that's a long time by anybody's standards. But I guess for those who are perhaps not so familiar with a laptop company, maybe you can tell a little bit, not just about yourself, but also a bit of history of the company. And
25 years goes in a blur, really. I must have been really young when I started, I think. Look, laptop company was started in 1986, so we'll turn 40 years next year.
Wow.
And, in our industry, that's a long time. We started the year after the first laptop was created by Toshiba. And I guess we've always had a really clear focus around making the end user experience the best it possibly could be. What that's evolved into over the years has gone from hardware to bringing hardware and software together and just making sure that everything works and if there's a problem, we're there to resolve it as well. So I think, as Pablo touched on, we've got a really strong government focus. We've been part of the all government contract since its inception in 2010. We understand that really, really well, but probably more importantly, we understand how to drive the best outcomes for those large enterprise and government customers as well. Understanding how they operate, what their internal teams are focused on doing, and how do we take pain and pressure away from them to help deliver that better end user outcome as well. And look, we keep adding and evolving and meeting those needs. We're not in an industry where you just stand still and expect to be successful. So it's nice to be able to reflect on that sometimes.
Absolutely. So Pablo, for years we've promoted the idea of better together, and I guess now in this kind of new age now where the laptop company is part of the family, what would be an example of how being able to access those combined services is going to really be a big advantage for customers, and what can they expect?
I suppose it comes down to, again, the selection process, and why the laptop company was attractive to us was because of the people. The passion and the capability they have complements really well on how we want to help consume and solve problems for customers. So I suppose part of the answer to your question here is having a team that is effective, that had our best of class on the way they approach to solve customer solutions, and particularly the laptop company has a capability around managing an asset all the way from procurement to managing it while it's being utilized. You move forward then to network edge with the security of the network and also the cyber security with NOCs and SOCs and so on. And then you bring a capability of the managed services that Softsource brings, which is world-class. So you add all of those Centre of Excellence, you start seeing a seamless experience for the customer not only from the way that they want to procure that device, all the way to how do we make sure the environment is protected, making sure that the value of the customer is foremost right there for them to take advantage of, but more importantly, that they had the right experience all the way through the life cycle of that product.
That can be a real sort of challenge to manage that on an ongoing basis, and thinking you touched on international market as well. How are you managing that growth, and what are you thinking about in terms of managing that growth moving forward? I'm thinking from a more cultural point of view as well.
Sure. Well, that's key. There's no doubt about it. Again, it comes down to having a very positive board of directors who are always encourage the business to do the right thing for the customer. And it's been amazing the results that come back out of that.
I'd one of the traditional SVB team say the coolest thing to me the other day, and they'd worked in other places in the industry, and they said to me, the greatest thing about here is we don't have to fight to do the right thing. We're not fighting the business to try and do the right thing for the customer. What a cool endorsement from someone who's working face-to-face with the customer to know that they've got the support of the business, without question to go and do the right thing. I wasn't asking for that. It was just part of a conversation. I was like, man, that's cool. I jumped all over it. I was like, that's the greatest thing that anyone could say.
And look, these things don't come by themselves. You foster a culture, you empower people, you give them the right tools, you make sure that they are trained and be efficient to do it. That's what professionalism in this industry has been, and the standards are set really high. And we are so happy and delighted that all of our staffs are motivated. They can see the changes we're doing. They want to be part of it. And that allows us to then be really strategic and be bold, go after new goals, which we know will help ourselves, our people, our communities, the whole country. And that is what excites me. That's what drives me to say tomorrow, well, let's see what we can do next, because we know that we need all of us to make sure New Zealand continues to grow and excel in what it can do.
Yeah, if we're working with a company that's got aspirations to push overseas, we'll be equally aspirational to go and make that happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Pam, that's probably quite a good lead-in to another question I've got here for you. And last time we spoke, we talked quite a bit about your role on the HP advisory board and the importance of this partnership. With the laptop company now being part of the Softsource vBridge family, what's next in this partnership? And I guess more importantly, what does it mean for our customers?
Well, again, the Centre of Excellence brings that if we want to be technology leaders, we need to understand what's out there. So having the capability and the reach from a global perspective to make sure we are coming back with solutions for our customers that are meaningful to them today. These guys continue to operate in a size and scale that is not quite attractive for New Zealand yet. So we need to then take those frameworks and make it work in a New Zealand size that people can continue to adopt the best technology available to them, but actually on a economic scale that is actually achievable for them to be able to deploy it and enjoy. And so that's something that I think it will continue to change the way, or our role is anyway, to bring and bridge that from overseas. That will be one thing that the partnerships will continue to grow and foster, but also to make sure that we have a voice.
You're not just advocating for the industry, you're usually advocating for all the customers as well, and making sure we've got solutions from those big global manufacturers that are fit for purpose for us. And then it's turning that around and making it valuable for the manufacturer as well. As you say, we've got such a mature market here, and I think with the attitude that we bring to finding solutions, we get to help shape things globally. I often believe we are delivering world-class solutions, and we do that because often we have to shape things ourselves, and I think we're getting more and more help now from the manufacturers to say, well, how would you shape that? What would work for you? Because they know they can probably take that and cookie cutter it around other parts of the world too.
And look, I think they've seen our growth, and they've seen I suppose we were very early adopters going back to probably nearly 18 years ago now, where we said we want to change the model to a consumption-based modeling. And so suddenly that was very foreign for them. They're very unit-driven or quarterly-driven. They're very different mindset. And I think as the industry and the ecosystem has changed, they've kind of stood up and seen how we've changed these models, and now they're very interested in learning. And so now they're using us as benchmarks on actually would this work? And so there is certainly a capability we now have in the country. And look, you're right, I don't just represent us. I certainly represent the ecosystem in New Zealand from all other partners who I take feedback from, as well as obviously the customers living and breathing the solutions we have.
So I guess for our listeners, navigating sort of complexity right now, I mean, what is the single boldest thing that they could do right now to simplify their business and set themselves up for success obviously from a technology perspective?
Certainly from a government point of view, and maybe some of that large enterprise space as well. I think it's about having a really clear strategy about what they want to insource and outsource. And, sometimes it's, driven by governance and, what they're allowed to outsource as well.
Yeah.
There's so many pressures on organizations now. So for us, if I look at traditional TLC solutions, it's always had to make sense that they could carve out that end user device experience piece and have that make sense with the rest of their ecosystem, whether that's internal with other third parties or whatever that might look like. For me, the two key drivers are cost down and end user experience. And if you can tick those two things, what that does is takes a lot of noise away from the internal IT team, which then allows them to focus on some of these larger problems or larger challenges that they have. And so that for me is a really good starting point is what do we, if I'm a customer, what do we want to manage and where do we want to work with market leaders?
I think that during time we've seen the value of partnership change. We've seen that the cost of execution in business, we know that labour and the skill set we needed in the country has been squeezed over the years. And suddenly budgets have been squeezed as well. And so although you want to have the right people, sometimes it's really hard to actually either hold them or maintain them. And sometimes they haven't had a chance to even contemplating either using a different piece of software, for example, for an outcome, or even a different way of approaching this particular project. And so we come with the experience that we said, well, we've seen it done this way or this way, depending on the industry, depending on the requirements.
And so much of it is based around what they're trying to deliver. Do you need a really clear connection and their organisational knowledge to deliver those outcomes? And then what other parts can we just engage in partnerships? And I say it all the time, everyone's on the same journey, or a really similar journey at least.
But that's what's exciting from a perspective of bringing those larger overseas technologies to New Zealand. We're seeing automation now being part of the DNA of any organisation. And we don't have to solve all of it, but there's a piece of that process that can be automated and help you. And there's those cost savings, allowing customers to reinvest through new projects or new technologies because they've been able to do cost savings somewhere else in the business.
We think it's common because it's what we do every day, but it's nice to see that that is throughout the organisation, that, as you said before, everyone feels empowered to go and have those discussions, to be open to how do we attack this challenge, looking at it through the customer lens, not looking at it through, well, we can give you this. It's actually, well, what challenge are you trying to solve here? Use that as our starting point and work backwards from there.
Correct. And that's where our consulting practice comes really strongly as well. They understand what's available and what can be done. So again, having clarity of what's available in our toolkit, and more importantly, then what's available for customers to be able to consume in a way that makes sense for them. It's something really powerful when you bring it together, which is why the ecosystem continues to evolve.
Look, as always, time is against us, and something I'd like to do is just a few little quick round questions. And first one, this will be interesting. Who has the best coffee? Welcome to Wellington.
I'm going to say Wellington, though, I think.
I'm going to go Wellington too, so yeah, being a bit biased there, so my hometown. So one more serious one. What is the most underrated device feature you think on, and for laptops would be a good place to start?
Oh, that's a good question, Barry. Sleep screen. One button, walk away, no one can access your laptop.
Funny, I was thinking about something similar. I was thinking about the angle viewing your laptop. So we are always on the go. We're always moving. One of the features that a lot of the laptops have today, and customers probably don't utilize it, is making sure you can filter that viewing angle, and therefore the privacy screen is available to you and on the go. So you're always working on something that is meaningful to you and to your customers.
We work everywhere now, don't we? So just making sure what we're working on is ours and not for everyone to have a look at.
And look, there are so many features coming through, even including now when you use Copilot in team meetings and so on, making sure that your notes are there. You can then activate things very, very quickly. It's certainly something that will be very beneficial for everybody and gain some huge productivity.
Certainly it's very early days for that technology, but you're going to see this year a lot more services come through. Microsoft have just recently announced support for OneDrive with local AI capability, and I think that's kind of really, really exciting. Mark, one more for you, I guess. What's one fleet metric that more customers should track?
The number of devices that aren't being used. I'm really big on this. If you're creating efficiency with any size fleet, but if you take a large fleet, if you've got 5,000 devices and you've got 500 devices that are there as hot spares or awaiting a repair, I think shrinking that from 500 to 150 or 200 and still delivering a really efficient end user experience, that's such an easy way to save money. And as I say, when I look at the services we wrap around, if there's a device failure, we can have a pre-provisioned device in the user's hands within hours. They don't lose any downtime. The faulty device comes straight back to us. It's repaired, popped straight back on the shelf, and we're away.
So last one, biggest learnings at the end of year one post the acquisition?
I don't know. I think it's been a really good journey so far. I think because there wasn't a lot of crossover between what the businesses do and where we operate, the thing I genuinely appreciate is we've been able to take our time. Both businesses are growing and going so well anyway. There was no pressure or urgency to get everything, push it all together straight away. So we've been able to sit back and learn and look at what makes each other successful and then start taking those pieces and integrating them as well. And I know not every acquisition in our industry is like that. So I've really appreciated that and just really excited for the next 12 months. I think in 12 months' time, we'll reflect on how we've taken those learnings and applied them and help make our businesses more efficient, and which ultimately the real measure is what that means for our customers as well.
The future is bright. That's what I can say. The capability, the people, and now the technology that we're looking at best practices. It's really exciting all the next 12 months will bring. So, look forward to talking about that in the future.
Well, thank you both. I know you've both got a very busy day ahead, and thanks for coming on, and hopefully you'll come on again sometime soon.
Love to.
Thanks, Barry. Good to see you.
Got it. Cheers. That brings us to the end of this episode of Lifting the Lid on Technology. To learn more about how Softsource can support you on any of the topics covered today, visit svbgroup.co.nz/insights or find us on LinkedIn. I'm Barry White, and thank you for listening. Join us next time.